Hi friends, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. So the commercial property market seems to be in trouble. There's a really interesting story that the Wall Street Journal ran today. I want to go over it with you guys and share some thoughts. So headlines, interest-only loans helped commercial property boom. Now they're coming due. Landlords face a 1.5 trillion bill for commercial mortgages over the next 3 years. Now, the way this game is played, if real estate is going up in value, throw a bunch of money into real estate, wait a couple of years, sell for a profit. So simple, rinse and repeat, and you are golden, right? That's the basic idea. So what people did is they, got these buildings, say $400 million kind of thing. They would make interest-only payments, wait a few years, and then the principal would be due. That's how these things were structured. It's fine when real estate values are going up, and it's fine when interest rates are low. No problem, right? However, what if your property value goes down and you can no longer sell your building for what you bought it for, right? That's a problem. What if you had this interest only payments, and then at the end you had planned to refinance at ultra low interest rates again, but what if interest rates are no longer low, that they go up in value, and you're talking about buildings again, 400, 500 billion, sorry, not billion, $1 million kind of thing. Suddenly you're like underwater and the math doesn't work anymore, right? And also too, what if you were in a market to where, when you bought the building, you're like, well, everyone has to have a job and everyone has to go to the office. What if you live in a world where people don't have a job, right? Say your high flying tech company has gone under. Or what if people don't even go to the office anymore at all, because now we're working from home and we're all basically doing, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, this kind of thing. And it's sort of all of these different changes basically ruined the math for a lot of people. Moreover, we have Apple trying to convince you that we're all going to be wearing headsets and working from home, using these kind of things, and it's just really changed the commercial landscape. I think the other thing, part of the equation as well, is you also have a shift towards, like, people are doing way more deliveries, where we can order anything that we want online, and just the reallocation of real estate has completely changed the equation. And plus with the virus stuff going on as well, we don't necessarily want to go to the office anymore and hang out with a bunch of people that may get us sick, this kind of stuff. And moreover, when you find out that you can do your job at home, and why would you go to the office anymore when and you guys know this, when you're working from home and you feel like, well, why would I want to go in when I can already do my work like the same way in the office? And then most of the time at the office is just spent either sitting at my desk twiddling my thumbs or going to meetings that I don't want to go to. Just let me work from home and let me do my thing. And I think all of these combinations I just described to you has really, really hurt the commercial space. Moreover, I think this whole sort of real estate bubble was really represented on YouTubes and social medias, to where, like, people are convincing you that you need to take out all of these loans to build your Airbnb empire. You guys know how these things are, and buy my $1,000 class so you too can learn the secrets of building your Airbnb empire. But essentially the music has stopped, right? Tourism is slowed. It's not like that you can easily rent out your room for a couple $100 a night. It's just not that easy. And now you're on the hook for whatever loan that you put out to get that second, third property that you thought was going to be easily rented out. It's related to the commercial thing, because essentially when people are over leveraging themselves, right? When you're borrowing money based on the rosiest scenario, this is what happens. And so when people say, well, those regional banks, how could they not foresee that interest rates are going to go up? Why did they get those long dated bonds, this kind of stuff? It's the same situation with commercial real estate developers, or it's the same situation with your Airbnb, people who said they're going to make a fortune building those Airbnb empires. It's all the same. It's based on, when money is eventually cheap money, easy to get, right? Meaning that the lenders are more than willing to give you the loan. The basic idea is that they are incentivized to give you said loans, because they basically, every time they do a deal, they get a kickback slash bonus for that, and then they want to make the biggest sales at their bank and say, oh my God, I'm the leading lender. But essentially, the wheels stop turning, right? Interest rates are going up and everything's slowing, and I mentioned all these cultural things that have been changing, and the world is a different place now. And I think essentially what this shows is, like, some people end up swimming naked, and essentially when the tide goes out, we can see who that is. One of the things that I've learned in this space, and this is just in life in general, is you have a certain set lifestyle and you're comfortable with that. And when things get rosy, just save more money, right? When things get rosy, don't necessarily take on more risk. Pay off what you got, save more money, and you're going to be okay. And one of the things that I've noticed quite a bit, and this is on YouTube or I guess life in general, when people over leverage themselves, they get really, really stressed out, rightfully so, because now suddenly the math doesn't work out anymore. And essentially, the way they did their math is they, borrowed to the hilt, or they, as you guys know, say the commercial real estate, these kind of things, made commitments to where like they had predicted, these rosy scenarios, and you want to throw as much as you can to get in things while it's hot, but essentially didn't jump off the train soon enough. And also, to be honest with, say, the commercial real estate thing, the whole work from home movement, that's hard to predict, right? And from, at the time, it seemed like a great idea, but unfortunately, people set themselves up for a big fall. And, I'll be curious what you guys think is going to happen. And I'd be curious, in sort of which markets that you're in. I just give you an example. Like I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, where I talked to a friend who's in San Francisco, and she was telling me, in that area where like a lot of the commercial real estate, office buildings, these kind of things, they're just empty, they're vacant. And it was announced, I think it was like a week or so ago, where Nordstrom's is leaving the big mall, and that's a big deal when like apartment stores closing down, because it's also more representation to where just the business isn't there anymore. We were just because you guys know I'm visiting family in Baltimore. We were just in downtown Baltimore, and I can just tell you it's terrible. it's awful. And I laugh, but it just is. And my brother was saying it's sad because 20 some years ago it used to be nice, but it's just real. We go down there and it just doesn't feel safe. And I think a lot of cities are like that these days, to where the money has left the city, and the people are left essentially just, I mean, I don't know what else to put it, like beggars. It's just not really it's not the environment that I would want to work in, because when we're talking about, say, commercial real estate, and I know the big markets are like your San Francisco and New York. If the rents are really high, and I can have my employees work from home, and the employees don't want to go back to the office anyway, because not only rent's high in, say, that commercial building, so then it creates a lot of overhead for the business, but also too, your employees need to live around said buildings to for more convenience. But if like everything just costs are too elevated, like why would you want to do it? And so I think the commercial real estate is just a sort of a representation of sort of the world that we're in. The other thing too, which I think is a really big one, and also a big problem I think going forward, if indeed that, let's say, commercial real estate's never coming back, right? Let's forget about the whole banking thing and the whole crash and stuff like that. Let's just talk about culture in general. If we're all going to end up being working from home, I think there's a problem coming forward, or say going forward, to where people become so isolated at their homes, essentially working on their bed all day, working on the couch all day, and you lose interactions with your fellow human beings. Yes, you can still do it on the video chat. Yes, you can. I totally get that. But there's just something to be said for meeting in person in this communal space, and getting the sense of what it's like to get along with each other. I think that stuff, going forward, if we never return to the office, will be big challenges in the future. And I'd be curious to your guys' thoughts on this, on us older folks who, and honestly, you can't convince me to go to the office either. I'm part of the problem. But it's like, how do you solve this problem, to where you need people to be come together to get to like working together to understand another person's point of view, just to interact with your fellow humans, but financially and sort of just like, I guess, socially, just everything feels more comfortable if you can stay from home and be isolated. But I think there are some, what's the word to say, like unintended side effects to that. So one is you have the social situation, and then obviously two, as you talk about, for the economic situation, where you have all of these essentially commercial mortgages coming due, and I think they have a real change happening. I think the bubble is about to burst. So now, how could we avoid said scenario for these things? Well, maybe interest rates come down, and maybe the money starts flowing again, to where they can refinance, so that it makes sense and essentially keep the party going. Maybe theoretically they can find these magical ways to sell the buildings for at least what they paid for, and at least walk away, and break even kind of situation. and maybe you can convince people to come back to the office, and you convince all these new companies to fill the space, pay the rent, so you can therefore pay your mortgage essentially. Maybe all these things will happen, but I just think it's really, really tough because you have both the economic concern and also to the social concern. So just sharing some random thoughts on this kind of stuff. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on these things as well. Again, it's 1.5 trillion in commercial real estate, and it looks like we have a real problem brewing the way these things are structured. So please share your thoughts. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you next video.